Frank. No. Frank.
If I can get up here.
Some trip on any of our paraphernalia.
I never pass up an opportunity to talk. I just want to say a few words about Camp Blanding. I was one of the inhabitants of Camp Blanding in 1940 to, or 41 to 43. I was one of the young, damn Yankees that come down here with the 43rd Division. We were from Maine, Vermont, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. We took up half of Camp Blanding, 43rd Division. The other half was taken up by the 31st Division, which was the Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana National Guard. So here we have the Yankees from the north, 43rd Division, and the rebels in the 31st Division. In the middle of Camp Blanding, there was a parade ground. And down through the middle of the parade ground was a white line called the Mason-Dixon line. Believe me, that was it. We Yankees were in the far end of the camp. We had to come through the 31st Division area in order to get out of camp through the B gate. Well, the rebel boys from Louisiana, Cajuns, spoke French. And they were hurling all kind of epithets at us damn Yankees as we passed through their territory. And many fights evolved from that. Because they didn't know that we damn Yankees lived next to the Canadians and we spoke French too. So we understood what they were saying. So bingo, a lot of fights developed.
Hello there. My name is Frank Towers, and I'd like to offer this interview as a document covering my life from my early beginnings through my military career and beyond. I, the writer, was conceived in 1917 and was born there in Boston. And I was given the name of Frank Everett Towers, named after my father. And I went to Burlington, Vermont, and to attend the University of Vermont, and was studying business administration there. And along about that time, in fact, it was 1939, the clouds of war began to rumble, and the United States government instituted the draft, where young men between the ages of 18 and 26, I believe, were to be called up and serve 1 year service in the military services. So I enlisted in the Army, National Guard, as a private, earning $21 a month, which was quite a come down from the salary that I was getting then, which was $25 a week. Our unit moved from Vermont down to Florida, to a place called Camp Blanding. Excuse me. And this is where we spent the next year in training and preparing for the possibility of having to be called to combat duty in the war if war did eventually break out.
The great white fathers up in Washington, not knowing where we're ever going to go, they thought that it would be nice to feed us some of the typical Southern rations and to feed these rebel boys some of our good Northern rations. So they exchanged rations, and for breakfast, we had grits, turnip greens, you name it. And here we were putting sugar and cream on grits, which didn't go very good, and those poor rebel boys getting cream of wheat and putting butter and salt and pepper on it. That didn't go very good either.
During that period of time, weekends were free to us, and we were able to go into town and visit and see the tourist sites, and very often the citizens of the area would invite us to come to their homes for dinner or lunch. The churches and civic organizations, as well as the individuals, would send invitations out to Camp Blanding and invite 8 or 10, 15 soldiers to come to their organizational function. And I got involved into one of those programs, and through that I met my future wife. And so 2 years later, we were married, and we've been hanging around together ever since, 63 years now. And having done so well, they shortened our program at Camp Blanding, and we were to return home on the 1st of January, 1942. But unfortunately, on the 7th of December, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, 1941. And we knew then that we were in for the duration, that we would not go home in January. So a few days later, we did get the official notice that we were all subject to service indefinitely. And during that 3-month period, we did a great deal of training there in England in preparation for the coming invasion. Of course, no one knew when that invasion was going to take place, and it was all speculation from day to day. But finally, one night, late at night, after midnight, we heard the drone of thousands of planes going over, and we knew that was it. Somehow our ship got into the wrong packet, and we continued on the voyage, and we landed on Utah Beach instead of Omaha Beach, which was a wide, very wide and sandy beach, and there were no cliffs. So we knew immediately that we were in the wrong place. But it was not until after we got disembarked from the ship that the beach master advised us, our commanding officer, that we were in the wrong beach and we had to get back on ship and go to Omaha Beach. The reason I remember this so very well This was my birthday. I was 27 years old. And that was the biggest reception that I had ever received. It wasn't a very friendly one, but it was a big reception. There was to be an aerial bombardment of over 3,000 planes. And they were to start dropping their bombs south of the St. Lo-Perrier Road. The artillery fired red smoke shells landing on the road to further define the road so the airmen could look down and see this red streak of smoke, and they were to bomb forward of that. But to our horror, we saw the bomb bay of the planes open and the bombs starting to fall down. Unfortunately, those bombs fell right on our troops. We had 147 men killed in our regiment in those few moments, and several hundred more injured. We were just about ready to make our big break into Germany when Hitler came up with the idea of breaking through the Ardennes, and we became involved in the Battle of the Ardennes in the middle of December 1944. This was a very serious breach of our lines. We lost many thousands of men killed and taken prisoner. In our 30th Division, actually we had more casualties from the cold than we did from enemy action. We had just been in the Netherlands area, and it was relatively not warm, but not freezing weather. But when we went down to the Ardennes, we were encountering weather 20 degrees below zero. This is Fahrenheit. So we suffered brutally from the cold during the month and a half that we were in the area around Malmedy. As we were advancing toward Magdeburg, the 743rd Tank Battalion, which is a part of our division, encountered a train loaded with prisoners. At this point in time, we didn't know who they were or what they were, but we found that this was a train load of 2,500 Jews who were being transported from Bergen-Belsen to Theresienstadt, which is on the Czech border.
I see.
Theresienstadt was a notorious extermination camp, which they were heading for the final solution. Upon reaching the edge of Magdeburg, the day before the aerial bombardment was scheduled, we liberated a slave labor camp, which was composed mostly of Jews, some Americans, British war prisoners, but they were working in the Pulte ammunition factory. So we had to get those men out of there very, very quickly. So again, it fell my lot to be the escort to assist in getting those men loaded into our trucks, and we moved about 30 kilometers to the west to some Luftwaffe barracks that we knew about, where they could be housed and fed and clothed. Then we started our mission back to the States to go to the Pacific to finish up the war in that part of the world. While we're en route and in England, they dropped the atomic bomb on Japan. And of course that in effect ended the war, and we knew then that we would probably not go to the Pacific. So we, the 30th Division, did return to the United States, and in November of that year we were deactivated. I stayed in service and almost immediately was reassigned to occupation duty back in Germany. And I was assigned to Frankfurt, Germany, where I was the assistant post exchange officer for 3 years. So I remained there, and at the end of the 3 years, I came back to the States and have settled in my present home near Gainesville, Florida, where I've been employed here at the University of Florida for 17 years and retired in 1979. And I'm still going strong, working with my 30th Infantry Division veterans and trying to memorialize the veterans that we left behind in our cemeteries in Europe. Battle honors on there. First, my cross rifle to indicate that I'm in the infantry. This was a presidential unit citation that we got for the Battle of Mortain down here. I have a Bronze Star for meritorious service, Purple Heart for 2 wounds that I received, and the American Defense Medal for being in service prior to 1940, and the Combat Infantry Badge to indicate that I've been in contact with the enemy. And here I have my regimental insignia, the 120th Regiment, and the American campaign to show my service in the United States, and the European campaign, service in Europe, and the Victory Medal, and the Occupation Medal, German Occupation Medal. And this meritorious unit citation that we received.